Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Marrow, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to use the longsword in Godfall. Now, I've played Godfall for 26 hours, and I've always had my longsword equipped as my primary weapon. I've changed up my secondary to Warhammer, Spear, and the dual blades, but still I had my longsword on the whole 26 hours that I played the game. So I'm going to be going over the combos, the abilities, and what I learned from using the longsword for 26 hours of the game. So first off, let's go over the combos of the longsword. First off, we have the light attack combo. It's basically 3 light attacks and 1 heavy attack at the end. This one's pretty simple. You'll be using it throughout the game without even realizing it, so you don't really have to focus on this one. Then we have the breach attack. This one is 4 heavy attacks, and it's really good for applying a lot of breach damage at once, so if you're having a breach build or something like that, be sure to use this combo. And then there's another ability that you're going to have to go through the skill tree to unlock, which is the weapon timing attacks. It is really good. I've been using it throughout the 26 hours and it really helped me a lot. So first off, you're going to have to do a light attack, and then right when you see this wave pattern on top of your weapon, if you click on a light attack at the perfect time, you will do 2 quick slashes and it does a lot of damage. Or you can do a light attack and then a perfectly timed heavy attack, which does a leap heavy strike, and this one does a lot of breach damage too, so be sure to use that one if you have a breach build again. Now let's go over the abilities for the longsword. So first up, we have the Spectral Fury, which is a dash with 4 consecutive light attacks at the end. This one is really good against single targets, or if you want to close a gap against you and a specific target. Like for example, if you're fighting a boss and they jump backwards, you might want to use that to close the gap. Or let's say you're fighting multiple enemies at once, and then there is a ranged attacker all the way in the back that keeps attacking you and annoying you. You might want to use that to close the gap between you and end him quickly before the other enemies catch up to you and hit you. Then we have the Spiral Technique. This one is a dash that damages everyone in the way of the dash. And something that I discovered about it is that if you add a light attack at the end, you will do an AoE attack. I discovered that by button mashing. So this one's really good to close gaps against enemies again. If you're fighting a boss or someone that's ranged is really far away, again, this one's really good against them. And this one's good against multiple enemies because of the AoE at the end. Like let's say you're fighting against a boss that summons weak enemies. You might want to use Spiral Technique to close the gap and then use the AoE to kill the small enemies beside you. Now let's go over some combat tips that I discovered as I was playing with the longsword. So first off, if you're fighting multiple enemies at once, be sure to be careful. You can barely hit 2 and maybe 3 if you're lucky at once. So be sure to hit a couple of times and step back, or one of them is going to hit you from behind, or one of them is going to pass through your attacks and hit you and make you fall over or something like that. So be careful with that. And be sure to use your 2 abilities when the enemy uses an unblockable attack, because you're invulnerable when you're using them. It's really good because let's say an enemy does an unblockable attack that you don't know how to dodge. You might want to just use a technique or an ability to make it a lot simpler. You don't have to think about dodging right, left, forward, or back. Just do the ability. But you have to time it right though, because if you do it too early, you might finish the technique before he finishes his attack, which will give you all the damage. Or if you do it too late, you will take all the damage and then do it. So be sure to do it right. What I like about this weapon is that it's very good against enemies all around. It doesn't specialize in anything. You can play against the weak small enemies, you can play against the middle hard to fight enemies, and then you can play against the bosses too. It's really good all around. Unlike other weapons like the dual blades, which is good against single target enemies but really bad against multiple enemies at once, or the Warhammer, which is really good against multiple enemies at once but really bad against boss fights, this one is good against everything. But something weird is that I think that this one is the best against the bosses. Even though the dual blades seem like they're the better options against bosses and mini bosses, they don't do that much damage in my experience. Whenever I had a dual blade that had more DPS than a longsword, it still did less damage. I don't know if that's a bug for me or something like that, but that's what kept happening to me. But even if the dual blades do enough damage, the longsword is fairly fast, so you can still use it against boss fights too. For example, if you do it right, you can jump on the boss, hit it 3 to 4 times, and then jump back without getting hit most of the time. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and click on the bell for more Godfall guides, tutorials, and gameplay in the future. I will also be doing live streams of the Tower of Trials once I unlock it. I'm level 42 right now. Once I get to level 50, I'll unlock it. So be sure to come hang out. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.